Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Morning. What's up, man?
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Fantastic.
Good,
Thanks
good to
for
see you.
asking. Yep.
Good morning. Good morning, man.
I was like, where's Scott? I'm like, how
Good to
can I
see
not see him?
Good morning.
Morning, sir.
Their way. They changed.
Yeah, because it's not. It usually gets back there.
Yeah.
Shower.
Exactly.
My newer LO. Sneak peek at some of the movies. Or like, no, Is it, no, it's just.
Although it does new floor lost some of the luster. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's good.
Exactly.
How goes it?
It's good. Yeah. Yeah. A little bit of a ride, but got to make me the Elon Musk of science.
Not the way you want it to.
Yeah. Yeah. He's actually volunteering this morning over in Fort Myers because he does like public speaking and things like that, and they're doing a big Thanksgiving event for all of the KW offices that were affected by the hurricane, and so he's going and speaking. Already to me from actually that Maxwell event. Yeah.
Really important because I think when you see Maxwell, that he came to.
Yeah.
You were there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think Pat just did another. So yeah, he's amazing. So
You'll have to go to Exchange, that event that I go to sometime. It's insane.
what is the
At some point, I want to mention Jay Scholarship Fund again to get people re-engaged.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Good morning.
Come
How
on
you
in.
doing?
Great. Good to see you again. Glad you're here.
Thank you.
Well, would you expect anything less?
Nope. That's why somebody had asked me what time are we really starting this morning. 9:15ish.
Yeah. Come on in. Great. Good to see you again. Glad you're here.
Got their
Let me see this
popcorn.
really quick.
Where are we sitting? Where's Carson?
You can.
That's why somebody had asked me what time are we really starting this morning. 9:15ish.
John.
You guys ready?
Yeah, another minute or two.
Okay.
I'll gather them. Conversation with this dad. His dad was like, I'll wait for it again.
We're going to get started in like 5 minutes.
Been somewhat estranged for a number of years now. And he and his sister haven't had a great relationship either. She's the one up there looking after his parents, and she's blaming Alan for not doing what was interesting. But he got up there, they repaired their entire relationship. It's cool. He and his dad bonded, they laughed, they cried. Sister haven't had a great relationship either. She's the one up there looking after his parents, and everyone's got him back into the hospital.
Let's not have a conversation that you don't want the world to hear right now. Yeah.
How are you? I love that you have popcorn.
You got it. I like them.
I
No. Extra cord for your iPad that I can borrow for a little bit. Okay, that's fine. No worries.
So tell everybody the coffee and donuts right now?
If you would like coffee or donuts, it is now here, right in the lobby. Okay, go get it, and we'll get started in 5 minutes so that you can get coffee and donuts. 9:23 is when we're going to get started.
Well, I gotta give it to you, Scott. You can really clear a room. It's a dumb packet.
In all fairness, Richard, we changed the date 3 times. So. The third. Did you include
No, but I have no instructions.
You would.
And I'm gonna rally them.
Change it every quarter. So when we do our quarterly stats each time, we'll just give them the new password.
If a link into that, like I did for Trend Graphics, what all I do is click on the link and automatically press an English. You don't have to worry about changing the password.
Yeah.
Or if somebody is sharing the password with someone else.
Well, I can also, well, I mean, they could if they wanted us to share their KW password, they could, but.
You're not as likely to do that with a friend of another company.
That's true. Richard, you've got 1 minute.
Hey Scott, what equipment is this right here?
It's called a Mevo.
What's it do?
It's live streaming to YouTube right now.
They post the Zoom site because somebody's asking on our coaching site. The Zoom links.
They can go to kwwaxman.com/live.
Got it. Thank you.
You got it.
Get your coffee done.
Good morning.
How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, very good.
Glad you're here.
Thank you.
You got a front row spot.
I know, right? Like, yes.
How's,
Short. See, that's the-
yeah, how's Tim doing?
He's doing okay.
Good.
He's doing okay.
Good.
He's had like a sinus infection.
Oh, no.
And his parents have been kind of rough here lately. His parents have kind of been in distressed situations.
Oh, man.
And his dad lives in West Virginia. His mom lives in a place called Forsyth, Missouri.
Okay.
So she had cancer and had this heart issue. So it has just been a lot the
Man.
last month, for sure. So had a lot going on. We're still trying to come out with it. You know how it is.
Yeah.
Sometimes things like that just keep crashing on you.
Oh, yeah.
You adjust,
Gotta
to make it work.
keep moving forward.
Yep, and if it worked for that, what would you do? I mean, I told him, so I've been there, lost both parents, and I said, the second time I probably did it better, now he's not going to pass away. But for the night that she passed, because maybe the month that she got sick, and then the next month when she passed, it was 4 more. I said, you just gotta keep going. Because I said, I get it, it hurts, it destroys you, but what can you do? You know what I'm saying, at that
Yeah.
point? So he's having to deal with some of that right now. But like I said, we got the business flowing and going, and I saw that the Entrepreneur Road, and I was like, oh, this is like 9 o'clock every morning. I get it now. So,
Yeah.
so
How, do you guys have any big plans for Thanksgiving or anything like that?
not really.
Yeah.
Actually, yesterday was kind of fun times because my daughter goes to a private school there right around the corner from us.
Okay.
And so they had a Thanksgiving dinner. So it
Nice.
was cool. It was nice, because I love that kind of stuff. Kind of just. How are you? Doing, family stuff like that.
Yeah.
Excited for her. it's a small school, but I said, you don't put this in like public service, this is like.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was good.
Good.
I think it's gonna like, we live right, we live in Sunny Isles.
Uh-huh.
And so we live right there on A1A, in the Trump brand.
Yeah.
And so international is like next to us. So we dinner on Thanksgiving. I'm like, well,
There you go.
I'm gonna buy a turkey just in case you're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you know, it's really nice. I mean, it's very nice. So it's probably 4 days to step next door and have the turkey and
Everything over there. Not have to worry about the stress of making it yourself, right?
yeah, I'll let Azuro make it for me, that's for sure. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm not ready. How's things been going for you?
They've been good. They've been good. My family and I were actually flying to Texas next week, so
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Did
Tuesday.
you have family in Texas?
yeah, my mother-in-law and my wife's family is all in Texas, so we're going to go do that, and then I'm going to go see my little brothers in California the weekend after.
Oh, where do they live in California?
The Southern California area. One of them, or two of them live in the LA area, and one of them lives down in San
And
Diego.
you know this is where Tim's from.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
What city is he from?
He's from, well, he's born in Pasadena.
Okay.
Kind of grew up in that.
I was born in Covina. Born and raised in Covina.
Yeah,
Yep.
And his brother lives in San Fernando.
Okay.
So his brother lived there when it was like tiny, you know, and now it's kind of grown.
Yeah. Santa Clarita has gotten huge.
I know.
Yeah.
But when Tom moved there, it was like this little bitty teeny tiny town nobody ever heard of.
Yep.
And now it's like grown.
The only thing that was out there was Magic Mountain, right?
Right, exactly. One of his daughters works at that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but here's the funny part.
Just want to drag everybody in.
Florida. And I said, well, definitely because of all the crazy things going on.
So my 9:15-ish realtor time,
Really?
but even that doesn't work.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
This isn't a 3-hour gig. That's why everyone's like, what time does it start?
I would rather start
And I
on
said,
time.
the boys are grown, she's ours.
But we're also we don't have wax meeting.
Yeah.
Spot
Richard, what do you say we get started?
I did this in both.
We are definitely on Realtor Time this morning. It is 9:30, and we had an appointment at 9. So welcome.
That's
Good morning. Good morning. Oh, we can do better than that. Good morning. Good morning. We have so much to be grateful for, especially with Thanksgiving right around the corner, and I want to let you guys know that I'm grateful for every single one of you for coming and joining us today to better yourselves and understand the market in an even greater way so that you can serve your clients. Richard, what do you have to say?
Not much.
Okay, well, I beg to differ. I've seen your presentation. You have a lot to say, and you're going to do it over the next 2 hours.
All right. Like Scott said, good morning, everyone. Glad you joined us. And I'm looking forward to sharing this information with you as quickly as this market is changing. Was sharing with Scott and some others earlier, I don't think I have ever worked on one presentation as long as I have on this one, because it seems that almost every day different news was breaking, different articles were coming out, and I was going back in and changing what I wanted to talk to you about. So let me start, show of hands. How many of you, when you wake up in the morning, you do whatever you're going to do, you look at your phone, do you read articles on Inman? Do you read articles on Resimedia? Do you read articles in Forbes, in Bloomberg? Guys, this is what puzzles me about a whole lot of people. And I know that people have talked for a long time, I don't watch news anymore. Well, you're in a business of communicating with people all day, every day. How are you communicating with people if you don't know what's going on in the news, particularly the real estate related news? Now, a lot of the stuff, and I'm going to talk about it later, has me scratching my head when I read it. Because from the first line of what the author is writing to the end of the first paragraph to the third paragraph, they've contradicted the quarter, and my stats classes every month, is so that you understand what your clients, what your friends, what your sphere are hearing about, what they're reading, and what they're thinking. Because as real estate professionals, if you aren't keeping up on it and you don't understand what the news is really all about, how are you having an intelligent conversation with anyone else?
Yeah, you know, a great example of this, Richard, is that article that we were sent yesterday by somebody who will be nameless. They're not part of our organization. And what they sent was an article that said 34% of all realtors at the National Association of Realtors cannot afford to pay their rent. To which Richard and I looked at each other and said, well, no shit, 800,000 of them haven't closed the transaction this year. So if that's 34%, we're not doing too bad, actually, based upon that number. And you know, it's just how you read and interpret the data. And you've got to remember, with news organizations and stuff like that, they now have to create headlines that make you want to click it. Because it used to just be you turned on the news and they got all of their money through advertising from commercials that came on, because you didn't have an option to not watch them. And now the only way that they get that ad revenue is actually from making you click on a headline that makes you interested in what it's going to say.
Right, and the headlines are normally not the truth, not behind the entire story.
And a lot of times it has nothing to do with the actual article.
Right. All right, so a lot of what we see, a lot of what we hear is perception. And, wrong way. Yeah. Cut off the headline. Headline was, I asked my father for a cordless drill, and this is what I got. There's a few of my generation in here. Do you know what that is?
It's a cordless drill.
It's a cordless drill. It's a handheld drill. It's what I grew up using when I wanted to make something. Perception. My point with this is you need to understand that anybody who is 30 years old has never known anything other than 3% mortgage rates in their home buying part of that 30 years, right? If you're between 30 and 50, 6 to 8% mortgage rates were the norm. And if you're 60 and older, you probably bought your first house when interest rates were 18 to 20%. And you cheered when the rates dropped to 12. So the big talk in the industry today is all about mortgage rates. Are they horrible where they are? And that's the point, is no. But to the young people who for the past half dozen years were used to 3% interest rates, 6 and 7% interest rates is absolutely terrible. It's turned the industry upside down. So we're going to talk about that today. And, wrong way. As always, we're starting to talk about the national numbers. These are all the slides that I put together and I use in my monthly classes. This is where the generic type information is coming from. And this is almost the more important part of the presentation because this every single day. So when it's basically telling us that when the economic uncertainty settles down, the real estate will somewhat get back to normal. In times of uncertainty, which we're going through a whole lot of it now, between inflation and rising rates and world affairs, people are pretty darn concerned. Talking about headlines. These are just, yeah, they're all over the place, they're overwhelming, and for the most part, they're negative. Remember, in times of uncertainty, people follow the certain. So the question to you is, are you the certain people? Are you able to talk to them and help calm them down, help them understand what's really going on? Now, for a second, kind of out of order, I don't have a slide for it. For the past couple of days, have you seen on Facebook, there's a slide going around, I reposted it as well. 6 months ago, a $450,000 house would have been bid up to $500,000 at a 3% mortgage rate, and your payment was $2,100. I don't remember the exact number. So today, that $450,000 house you could probably buy for $4.25 at a 7% mortgage rate, if that's what they used. The payment is really only $50 more than it was before. Is it all that horrible to buy a house today? No. As a buyer, you're probably a little bit better off buying the same house today at a higher interest rate, because what happens in a year's time when the mortgage rates start coming back down again, which they most likely will. We'll talk about that in a little bit with this guy here. So, big question, will mortgage rates rise? Simple answer to that one is yes, they will. And yes, they'll come back down again. So this slide here, yep, this is one that I've changed 3 times. Because as you know, mortgage rates at the beginning of the year at 3.22%, and as of as of a week ago, they were 7.1, 7.
All right, show's over.
And
What'd you do, John?
I didn't break it. This is what happens when you talk about morning. You didn't do it.
yeah, when you put your PC coaches back near where your computer is.
Oh,
Did you just shut? No. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said.
You got that, Scott? Okay. No, you need my fingerprint to get that restarted.
yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
It came unplugged.
It's because somebody probably tripped over the power cord standing back here.
Go ahead and
Okay.
talk about this. I'm going to try to fix the screen resolution.
There we go. And we're back. All right. So, point is, last week interest rates had been up over 7%. In 6 months' time, never in the history of mortgages have rates gone up as fast as they have now. And that's what's put so many people into such a panic. Well, is it Monday? I think news broke, more reports came out, and the rates dropped almost 0.5%. Right there, 30-year rate is now 6.6. Again, in the past 20 years, never have rates dropped that much in a 1-week time. So you understand the fluidity, the extreme fluidity of interest rates, and the sitting on the sidelines going, well, I'm going to wait for rates to come back down. All kinds of script and dialogues why that's not a really good strategy, buy something now. But when rates go up as fast as they do and then drop 0.5% in a week, are those people looking like they're the smarter ones? They waited, and now I can lock in a rate at 6.6. Well, I don't know, do you have a crystal ball, Bobby, to tell us what the rates are going to be next week?
I do, but it's out of power.
Well, that's what happened back there. We lost power. Isn't it nice to have somebody like Scott who understands technology?
I'm still working on it, Richard.
Instead
Don't
of
give me credit
Waxman,
yet.
who can't tell you how to turn on his phone. It's
No, we're still missing a bunch of stuff. Slideshow. There we go.
All right. All right. So one of the questions that a lot of you have is why are interest rates going up? It's somewhat of a simple answer. We have inflation in the country. The only tool that the Fed really has left to them, and understand it's not the government, the Fed is not really a branch of the government. This is the people that control our banking systems for the most part. The tool that they have left is to hike the Fed rates. Now, the reason they do that is to try and dampen inflation. And inflation should normally run 2.5%, 3%. Well, we've been running, or it slowed down a little bit to 7.7, which was good news. Stock market went up over 1,000 points in one day when that news broke. But the Fed uses this as a tool to slow down inflation, to control our economy. Market, the Fed's program is working. Somewhere between 20 and 25% of the entire economy. It's not just us working with buyers and sellers, but look at the ripple effect that we have on the entire economy. Every time somebody buys a house, they're buying appliances, they're buying furniture, they're buying new flooring. The carpenters, the contractors, the handymen in your house, Lowe's, Home Depot, everybody they employ. This is all tied into the housing industry. So when the Fed is successful at slowing down the housing industry, it's actually a benefit to the entire economy. It kind of sucks for us and for buyers who are out there wanting to buy something. In the long term, it's a pretty good policy that they have. Now, they're saying home sales, both new and existing, are falling. Builders have cut back on their production, which is causing other long-term problems. And annual house price growth has slowed from a year ago of almost 21%, and it's dropped to 16.7. That in itself is still horrible. 16.7 growth in housing prices, again, is unsustainable, which is why they're continuing to raise the rates.
You're right, and one thing to add to that is with builders actually slowing down on the building, that puts them further behind on ever catching up, which increases demand in the long run. So they're kind of going backward to you because it is going to keep demand continuing to move forward.
No, great point, and I actually do have a slide for that.
There you go.
So this is what I was just saying. 30-year fixed rate mortgages increased 3.83% since the beginning of the year. That's the largest year-over-year increase. Mortgage rates have never doubled in a year. In the history of keeping track of mortgage rates, they've never gone up this high, this fast, and that alone is what has put so many people into the panic that they're in now and has knocked so many buyers out of the market. Now, Mark Fleming, who's the chief economist for First American, he makes this comment, and this is one typical of when I read it. I'm sitting there and my first reaction is, huh? What the hell is he talking about? Rates are rising, month-over-month price declines, yet there's annual appreciation, and they're forecasting annual appreciation. So if he's sounding confused with what he's talking about, and I'm confused in reading that type of statement, how do you think the people you know are feeling? Confused. So, what's ahead for next year? And it's hard to believe that we're 6 weeks away from next year.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just getting used to writing 2022 on all my checks and forms. It's like, all right, so every month they do surveys of all of the economists. One of the questions they've been asking is, do you think we're going to be going into a recession? Well, in January, only 18% of the economists that said within the next 12 months we'll be in a recession. In April, went up to 28%, went up, and we're now at 63% of the economists are forecasting we're going to be going into a recession. Here's the problem for you. Most people meaning of a recession is, and in their minds, which wasn't just a recession, that was a major calamity in our entire economy that was charged, and everything went to hell.
Yeah, there's actually 7 different things that go into play when they're deciding what a recession is.
Correct.
Now,
technically, the recession is 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth.
Yeah, and usually those other 7 factors that they depend on fall in line with negative GDP growth. And right now we're in an anomaly type situation because not all of the other 6 factors are falling in line with the negative GDP growth, which is why they technically haven't called what we have a recession yet.
Okay. Now, when they interview CEOs from around the world, the majority of the CEOs, 8 out of 10, are saying that they're expecting a recession in the next year, but more than half of them are expecting it to be very mild in nature. Now, again, think back to 15 years ago, which is what's in most people's mind when they hear the word recession. You've got to remind them that historically, recessions are very short-lived. While it takes 2 consecutive quarters to go into a recession, followed by a quarter that's positive, you're now out of the recession. And that was back in the early 80s, if I remember. And that's when interest rates hit almost 20%. Because that's what the government had to do in order to bring that type of inflation back under control.
And right after that was actually one of the fastest recoveries that the country saw as well, because they had fiscal and monetary policy starting to line up, which is where the Fed and the used to improve the economy.
We'll see if that ever happens again. So here's one of the things you've got to remember coming out of a recession. Actually starting in a recession and following it. After a recession, mortgage rates always fall. See, the government raises the rates to, say, put us into a recession, to slow down the economy. When they're successful with it, the economy has usually slowed down too much. So what do? They lower mortgage rates to get people back into buying homes and all of those ancillary services kicking back into gear to restart the economy. So again, Mark Fleming, house price appreciation has slowed in all 50 markets that they've been tracking. Prices will continue to rise, but at a slower pace. And we'll talk about that some more in a little bit.
Well, it's important to
but
remember
that's actually good news.
Yeah, and it's also important to remember that housing prices have risen on average nationally 32% over the last 2 years. So for them to come down a little bit, even if they came down 15%, people would still be 17% ahead of where they were 2 years ago on average across the country.
So we're well aware of the fact that the number of home sales has been dropping. You can see what's happened for the past 4 years. 2021, there were 6.9 million transactions. Now these numbers, this is from Freddie Mac, these numbers are a combination of resale and new sales. 6.9 million homes changed hands last year. This year they were projecting it to drop to 5.8. Next year, dropping to 5.1. Now, here's the forecast. Fannie Mae is projecting 5 million, Freddie 5.1, MBA and NAR both 5.4. The latest numbers that came out are actually projecting next year we will drop to 4.8 million. Okay? 4.8 million is 20% off what the height of the market was. Is 4.8 million a horrible number?
No.
No. No, it's still better than most of the years prior to 2018, 2019. That was considered norm. When we first broke 5 million, going, that's fabulous, which is why so many people got into real estate. Right? Right now,
Exactly.
NAR is 1.6 million members. Even at 6.1 million transactions, do the math and figure out how many transactions per person that
Hey, Richard,
is.
and I think 500,000 of those members are.
Yeah, well, it's the old, this is going back 2 decades now. The joke was, if you're ever pulled over by a cop down here, they're going to ask to see your real estate license because not everybody has a driver's license. Well, the benefit of the market
Richard will be
slowing,
doing stand-up on Wednesday night. So.
yeah, I can bring all the old jokes out.
Okay, perfect.
And I steal most of them from Gail. She keeps reminding me of that. Here's to become the best educated realtors out there. You're the ones that are coming to class do 0 transactions. So in the next year, and I actually ran the numbers a couple months ago and worked it out. You know, if NAR the same amount, 20 or 25%, the people left in the business will actually be doing more business than you have the opportunity to do now.
And actually more opportunities. Because what happens when the market shifts the way that it is, those people who are doing 1 to 2 deals a year say, to 2 additional deals for every one of those people who got out of the business.
Yesterday,
Yeah.
about those people getting out of the business. Now, for those of you that aren't aware, many years ago, I set up a referral company, which is just like a placeholder for somebody that wants to keep their license active. So dollars a year dues, they don't want to pay the monthly fees to hang their license at a real estate company. It just gives them the ability to get paid for referrals. And in the last 6 months, I'm seeing more and more people join that referral network, getting out of day-to-day real estate.
Yeah.
What we're looking at is creating that kind of database with
Out anytime somebody chooses to get out of the business, we're going to give them the option to hand over their actively market to all of the people in their database, and as those leads come in, you guys will have an option to raise your hand and say, we're happy to help. And that referral network, as soon as anything closes that comes from anybody that they've put in our Market Center or our Waxman Group database, they will automatically be sent a referral fee, and you will get to close those deals for their clients. So that's going to be one of those things that we're working on. You'll see information about it in the next probably month. I've got to get our attorney to approve the contract that we're putting in place. And we're also going to give them an option should they choose to get back in the business and join Keller Williams. We will give them their database back whenever they choose to do that.
and that's the power of command.
There you go.
Can't do that in other databases. Now, here's one of your jobs, because you guys know all the other agents in the office, and if you hear somebody talking about thinking of getting out of the business, you want to talk to them about merging their database. And if they look at you with crossed eyes, like a lot of agents not doing any business, they're
What's a
going, what's a database? What are you talking about? You teach them how to create a database, right? I mean, think about it. Everybody knows or could create a database overnight of at least 50 people in it. All your family, your friends, who's your doctor, who's your accountant, who's your hairdresser. These are people you should be putting into a database.
Let's just
help somebody else develop those databases.
Will somebody pull out a calculator really quick? Let's just do some math on this really quick. So let's say that over the next 12 to 18 months, there's 300,000 people that get out of the business from NAR, leave NAR, no longer are active in real estate. So 300,000, and let's say that on average, every single one of those people would know at least 50 people. What's 300,000 times 50? There are 15 million potential clients out there that will be orphaned and not have somebody representing their needs. Those are the people that you should be talking to. Those are the people that we are going to market to on your behalf so that we can be able to hand leads back out to you. Now, we're not going to go after all 300,000 people nationwide, but what we are going to do is have conversations with those people here locally so that we're able to give you more business.
Okay. Switching from home sales to home prices, and you're looking at three of your biggest forecasters. HPES is Home Price Expectation Survey. This is a survey done with 100 of the top economists around the country, and they're actually more bullish than anybody. But you see the blue is forecasting prices to increase. Freddie and Fannie are expecting prices to pull back a minimal amount, and Zelman, who is a major forecaster nationwide, is the most negative of all of them. And as I said, if 5%, the question is, what's that 5% downside from? Is it from the peak of when people were asking ridiculous prices, or is it a more realistic figure? But even at that, if you list $1 million house and prices decrease by 5% years ago for $600,000, it's like, oh, boo-hoo.
Well, and a lot of this data, you got to remember, is also taking into account the first 5 months of 2022, which, if you remember those first 5 months of 2022, you were out there actively trying to get people under contract, and you had to ask them if they were willing to give their kidney in order to win.
Yep. All right, so this is the chief economist for Redfin, and he's going, for the bearish folks, he's easily awaiting for home price crash. Keep waiting. Ain't going to happen. As much as demand is pulling back supply, as well as reducing downward pressure on prices in the short run. This is a company that's having a hard time in real estate these days because
let's
of
keep in mind
mistakes
they
they've
also
made.
laid off 13,000 people like 2 weeks ago. So their chief economist and CEO did not have a communication.
So the chief economist for First American, if you can find a house that meets your financial expectations for a monthly payment that you can afford, and it's a good time for you to buy, then you need to do that. You've heard me use the expression before, and you've also seen it on the internet. This is the expression: marry the house, date the rates. If you're working with a buyer, there are more homes on the market now than there were, so they have better choice. Prices have, if they've not pulled back, there's at least negotiating room. And when we look at local statistics, you'll see what's happening there. So like I said, if it's a $450,000 house, instead of having to pay $50,000 over to get the house, you're now able to negotiate on it. It's a good time. And Bob is going to talk to you in a little bit about some of the programs that Supreme has to offer you, where you can lock in a rate today. If rates do drop, you get the lower drop, and you can refinance at no cost in the future when rates come down more. So you're getting the house you want. Make sure you can afford it today, but be assured that in the next couple of years, when rates do come back down, you're going to be in an even better position than you are.
That sums it up, Richard.
Yeah, but you're going to say it anyways. Dave Ramsey, love Dave Ramsey. He pretty well sums it up better than anything else. It's supply and demand. You got more buyers out there than you do properties to buy. The demand side has slowed up because of the interest rates, but supply is still extremely low. So this is another way of looking at it. Showings is down statistically 12.2% over this time last year. Inventory, or the number of active listings, is up almost 27%. This is what's giving your buyers who are still out there looking the opportunity to find a better house without being pressured into making an offer for it today and overpaying for it. So, what are the experts talking about now? Well, Ivy Zelman, like I said, they're pretty well the most negative of all of the forecasters out there. Realtor.com chief economist, he's kind of waffling on the whole thing, not committing one way or the other. It's becoming increasingly clear prices have to decline to restore market liquidity and balance. Again, Mark Fleming. Here's what I'm taking out of this one. Price will appreciate or will moderate rather than decline.
Those guys get paid the big bucks to make up stuff, I think.
Yeah, these guys all sit around talking to each other. And John Paulson, who's one of the billionaire fund managers in the country, he's just sitting on the fence. He's not committing one way or the other. I guess that's how he made all of his money, by not committing people. It's true, housing may be a little frothy, so housing prices may come down or they may plateau, but not to the extent that it happened in the past.
Hey, it's sure a lot better investment than crypto with FTX, that's for sure.
Yeah. So understand, these are the experts who aren't really committing one way or the other to what's happening, but this is what the general public is reading and hearing. This is why it's so important for you to understand what's going on behind all of these headlines, behind the articles, understanding the numbers so that you can have an intelligent conversation with them. Now here's another one, foreclosures. Foreclosures nationwide. Right? We all know what happened when the markets crashed. Right? These were people that had speculated big time on real estate. A lot of them got burnt. A lot of people stopped paying their mortgages. They went into foreclosure. Right? Now, since the peak, the number of foreclosures has come down. Last year, look at this, 151,000. Now, a big part of that was because the government had put programs into place to stop foreclosures because of COVID. Right. Numbers have ticked up this year. They're back to 2020 levels. Not a bad increase.
Yeah, and I actually asked Doug Duncan, the chief economist of Fannie Mae, what do we need to expect in terms of short sales and foreclosures? And he was like, it's not even really on our radar. We're not paying attention to it. Well, they're paying attention to it. They're not worried about it because the average loan in Fannie Mae's portfolio has a 53% LTV, meaning the individuals on average have 47% of equity available in their homes. Now, keep in mind, Fannie Mae does keep loans on their books on average, from what Doug Duncan told me, about 9 years. So there's a lot of equity that's built up over that 9-year period of time. He said if there's anyone to be paying attention to where they could have the possibility of a short sale or foreclosure, it'd be the people who bought in the late part of 2021, beginning part of 2022, when prices were going absolutely insane.
And that only will happen if prices do take a bad downturn,
Correct.
which is not being forecast. Now look at these numbers. It says only about 214,800 homeowners nationwide were facing possible foreclosures. Okay? Now, what I want you to understand is that approximately 50% of all homes in the US are owned free and clear. Right? They're either people that have lived there long enough that they've paid off their mortgage, or they're owned by investors who paid cash for them, or normal homeowners who paid cash for them. Now, it's saying that 0.4% of the 58.2 million outstanding mortgages, of those facing foreclosure, about 91% of them had at least some equity built up in their home. Now, I did the math for you guys. That means that nationwide, there's only 21,000 homes that are in serious risk
Underwater
of going
positions.
into foreclosure.
Yeah.
21,000 nationwide. Is the foreclosure market something you have to worry about? No. So when you have a buyer that calls you up and they go, I want a great deal, I'm looking to buy a foreclosure, it's like, good luck.
Well, and to the point that you made, Richard, about that 50% of homes that are, owned free and clear, a lot of that is going to be the boomer generation, and it's also going to be the older generation than that. And one of the things that you have to pay attention to is over the next 15 to 25 years, there's going to be a massive transition of wealth from one generation to another. And looking into things like SRES, which is the Senior Real Estate Specialist designation, and other programs like that, can be a really, really wise investment for you because of the fact that the majority of those people who own those homes 50% free and clear are on the upper end of their life, the fourth quarter of their life, so to speak.
Yep. All right. So what are they anticipating
yes.
for prices coming up? Well, here you've got, to explain, this is talking about 6 of the largest forecasters out there. Fannie, Freddie are expecting over 4% appreciation. MBA, Home Price Expectation Survey, 2.8, 2.6, and again, Zellman is the one.
What happened to Zellman? Like, did they just get hurt or something?
He's turned very negative about
Yeah, no
things.
kidding.
And from what I've read, I really don't understand where it's coming from.
Okay.
Okay. Again, they're looking number of MSAs. An MSA is a metropolitan service area. It's like the Miami, Fort Lauderdale MSA is literally everything in South Florida. New York, Chicago, these are all MSAs, and there are a couple hundred, 618 MSAs around the country. So you've got, there's more than that, 618 of them are expecting to see appreciation, only 257 are expecting to see those cities that saw the most ridiculous run-up in prices and overbuilding in housing,
Boise,
which is
Idaho.
something we don't have in Florida.
Boise, Idaho is like the #1 place right now.
Yep. Yep.
Boise, Idaho.
Austin, Texas is another one that they're expecting to see a major correction in. So this one, same thing, it's just the number of analysts that are forecasting appreciation or depreciation. 68 of them expect appreciation, while only 21% expect price decline. And when you look at those 21, you've got 14 of them expecting under 5%. So this is just ammunition that you can use when you're talking to buyers that are going, yeah, I'm going to wait for prices to come down.
Yeah, and
This is a great slide for you to carry with you to show to those people. It's the same information over the next 3 years or 4 years going, what's expecting to happen? And real easy, 86, 91, 96% of all of the economists are saying prices will continue to appreciate. We're not going to see a major correction. Okay.
if you go back one slide, actually, one more, there, this one right here. If you go and look at those places that are projected to increase 5 to 10%, and even the 3 to 5% places, they're actually the ones that are more mid-America type regions, where home prices are still in the $200,000 to $300,000 range, because so many people that couldn't afford other places have chosen to move to these areas, which is causing those prices to actually go up faster. Another thing to pay attention to is manufacturing. So if you go and look at the places that in COVID, we realized that we had a problem with a chip shortage here in the United States of America, right? There were vehicles that were affected, cell phones were affected, computers were affected. There was just so much that we didn't realize we were dependent upon for something so small to be able to make things function. And if you want to be a wise investor in real estate right now, something to look into is this. Go and look at all of the different places throughout the country that are planning to build computer chip manufacturing facilities. There are some very interesting places, and they're places you would not expect. There was one like in the middle of Tennessee, in a city that I had never heard of, that has homes that are like $250,000, and they're planning on the average American can still buy a home there, and they have a good employment pool. So that's different tactics that you can use to build your wealth, is by looking at American manufacturing and where they're planning on putting major facilities.
So this is a graph I've been talking about for years and have showed you a number of times. This is new construction. And the dotted line, that gold dotted line across the middle, is pretty well what needs to be built every year in order to satisfy new household formation, which is a combination of the millennials leaving home, wanting to buy their first house, people getting married, moving in together, and immigration. It averages about 1 million homes a year. Well, when the markets crashed, you had a whole lot of builders, Centex, Engel, disappeared. Everybody else cut back. I mean, the only builder in Palm Beach County right now is GL Homes. Everybody else disappeared, and they've cut back on building. Matter of fact, with GL, and they're building 2 sections of it. Well, when are you guys going to be opening up everything else? Well, we're not even looking at it until 2024. 2 years out before they'll even consider building on all the land that they already own. If you look at the gray, that's 14 years, and it's now 16 years because this ended in 2020, that they've built below what is needed. The estimates that I've read is somewhere between 4 and 5 million homes weren't built that were needed to satisfy demand. That's one of the big reasons we have such a crunch on supply right now. Why our inventory levels are so low is because not enough new construction has gone on. Now, when I was saying before that as a result of the rising rates, builder confidence, I think I read, is dropped to like 11% positive confidence ratings. The builders have all pulled back.
They've stopped putting shovels into dirt. They're finishing off what they're building. That's only going to make this problem worse in the years going forward. It's going to take us longer to come out of this, which is another reason why prices will not fall back.
Yeah, and depending on who you talk to, NAR will tell you that at the current rate of building for new construction, it would take 11 years to catch up. Gary Keller will tell you that it would take 17 years to catch up based upon the current rate of building. And when he mentioned that the current rate of building he was talking about was in February. So now that building has slowed down, it would actually probably put us somewhere between 13 and 19 years to catch up to supply that's actually needed.
Correct. So another way to look at what's going on with our inventory, okay, you got a bunch of spaghetti up there, except the red line is this year, 2022. It's the number of active listings month by month coming on the market. So we all know that for the last 6 months, we've been seeing an increase in inventory. But the problem is, other than last year, 2021, we still have lower inventory than at any time since 2017, which is, this goes back to 5 years. So even though we're seeing more properties, more active listings, and we'll look at this specifically for our market when we get into the detailed stats, you'll see inventory is rising, but it's not changing many of the other numbers. New listings coming on the market. It's seasonal. Been talking about this for a long time. So the number of new listings coming on now is actually less than this time last year. Yet our months of inventory is increasing a little bit. Why? Because there's less demand. So while fewer new homes are coming on, or fewer resales are coming on the market, inventory is still increasing because of the demand part of that. Okay. So talking about population, this is, Scott was hitting on this before. Your blue lines are your millennials. The dark gray is Gen X. Millennial generation has now passed baby boomers for size. Baby boomers declining. Those people are now in their prime home buying years. Now, a lot of talk has been over, you know, the school debt that they've had. You know, the millennials are the ones that moved back into their parents' basement, you know, years ago. Well, they've now come out. The millennials are the ones who are getting married now. They're starting families. That's the demand that's going to be driving the market for years to come. And for those of you that are of the millennial generation or Gen X, this is your time, guys. My time's kind of passing because boomers aren't moving anymore. They're staying put, or they're moving to be somewhere close to their grandkids. It's your generation that is here, getting jobs, getting married, having kids. You look around at all of your friends. They're in their prime home buying years. And the average person buys 7, 8 homes in their lifetime.
Unless you're in real estate, then it's probably more.
Gil and I ruin those numbers, and we stay put forever.
Yeah, that's who I was talking about. I was talking about you.
Yeah, that's the problem with the boomers, which is another problem that you guys are seeing right now, which is reflecting on the number of homes coming on the market. My generation is staying put a lot longer than they have in the past. You're going to see everybody that has bought a home in the last 5 years at really low interest rates feeling like they're locked into their current home.
Well, yeah, not only that, but if you're going to advise them on their wealth as well as real estate, their wealth through real estate, one of the conversations that you should be having with those people who have an interest rate of, gosh, I've seen them as low as 2.5%, but that 2.5 to 3.5%, the conversation with them should really be, can you afford to buy a home without selling this one? Because financially speaking, it makes more sense for them to keep that and have it cash flow for them because it will build equity over time and is going to appreciate more than what the current inflation rate is. Remember, the GDP growth every single year, the federal government wants to see a 2% rate in that, and the growth for the housing market every single year in a healthy economy is actually about 4%. So if their interest rate is at like 3%, it makes more financial sense for them to hold on to that as a long-term investment and buy another home, which I believe we will see a lot more of over the next 10 years or so because people are locked in at such low rates.
So Lawrence Young, chief economist for NAR, basically to sum this up, he's saying that once inflation is contained, mortgage rates will start to reverse. He expects that to happen between the end of next year and 2024. So the chief economist for our trade organization, to me, is one of the most reasonable people out there in looking at things. And Dave, I see you nodding. You've been at a whole lot of the NAR meetings in the last while. And this is the reality of things. We're going to be in this situation for about a year. Then you'll start seeing it to reverse.
Yeah, and even the chief economist of Fannie Mae pretty much expects stagnation in rates in 2023. Is more that in 2023 you're going to see things stay about the same level, not see massive increases or massive decreases, but you should see steadiness in 2023 when it comes to rates.
Yep. All right, so one of the things actually Gary Keller's talked about for a lot of years is called home affordability. And a couple slides to sum this up for you. First one is mortgage rates. And you can see here, this is, I didn't change this slide, this is a week old already, when rates had peaked at 7.08%. And a lot of this, this is global uncertainty. And we're expecting it to stay like this for another little while before they start coming down. Now, the higher mortgage rates go, the less affordable housing is because it costs people more money to get a mortgage so they can afford less house. Second factor, Case Shiller, who's he's not a forecaster, he actually tracks pricing of housing. This isn't a forecast. He goes in and he looks at the hard numbers, basically saying this home sold last year for this, it's selling this year for this. So if you look at the blue lines, and it's hard to read those numbers, it's hard for me to read those numbers from here. The blue numbers were all under 2%. That was the average price growth of housing. And that's going back January of 19 to January of 20. During all of 21, we started that year, and I'm sorry, those numbers were all at 3%. Starting 2021, appreciation jumped up to 4.5%. And by the time we hit January of 2022, prices were appreciating at just over 20%. All of that in gray was totally unsustainable. Everybody knew it, but we were all really happy to sell as many houses as we could.
Well, and that was also because there was billions and billions and billions of dollars pumped into the economy, which allowed people to be able to purchase homes. The average family of four during that point in time got between $12,000 and $16,000 in stimulus money, which allowed them to purchase a home in cases where they wouldn't have otherwise been able to.
Yeah, well, it's that money pumped into the economy, Scott, that actually created the inflation that we're going through
Absolutely.
right now. And it's one of the puzzling things is that even with the interest rates going up the way they have, people are still spending more money than they ever have before. Where you would expect your retailers to start seeing a pullback, the numbers that came out last week, they were actually ahead of where they were last year. Almost every segment of our economy
especially in the tourism and vacation industry, which we have a lot of down here in South Florida, is even with inflation and it costing more to go and do things, on average, like 25 to 30% more for a vacation than it did a few years ago, people are willing to pay it because...
In this segment, this is the one piece of good news that's going on. This is wages have actually gone up 6.9% from this point last year. I believe that's one of the fastest increases in wage growth. Now, here's the way to look at that. If inflation is running at 7% and wage growth is at 6.9%.
Congratulations, you're even.
You're keeping up with what inflation is. That's great news. What the economists want is for inflation to come down under what wage growth is, so that the average person can feel like they're getting ahead in life.
Yeah, and that will be where we see the Fed start to pivot and not raise rates continuously, but not decrease rates either, so that they create more of a longer runway for stabilization.
Yep. This is where they're talking about soft landing versus hard landing. We'll see what all that means in the future.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got Mr. Wills here from Supreme, who's going to talk to us about what's going on in the mortgage industry.
Give it up for Bobby!
And what he can do to help. Do you want to play the okay. So before he gets up and talks, guys, every week, Pat Flood, who's the regional director for Supreme.
He's now the actual president for Supreme.
President. Yeah. He interviews different people. He's been interviewing Doug Duncan, who's the chief economist for Fannie Mae. Pretty bright guy. This is about a 6-minute clip. Just want you to hear what he has to say, and then Bobby will get up and speak to you. Nope. Nope.
Bobby, you want to tell us what he said?
Okay. I did not.
You said you guys need an IT director.
I didn't leak it properly. You can stand up. Sorry about that, guys.
All right.
But all of these, and Bobby, you might speak about this as well. All of these interviews, SupremeLending.com.
Yeah, go to YouTube. Doug Duncan, when he was up in Atlanta with us recently, he's a
We won't let him leave unless he tells me.
We won't let him leave. He gets his best bottle of whiskey. And he give these guys a round of applause. That's some really good info. To say that they said it, they said that, they said that. You know, for being in real estate, these two guys are where it all begins and that's where it all ends. Is the education of both buyer and seller. And so this is the information that they need today. And I have the blessing of going around the Tri-County area, meeting different realtors, different real estate companies, and by far, Keller pours more into their agents than anybody. So all I see at that point in time is when you're making your care calls, your outbound calls, and you guys are providing information to a buyer or to a seller, is that you have the best opportunity to win their trust and to win the right to represent them. And I truly think it's a right.
We're going to make that quote and we're going to go put it on a billboard, okay?
Not a problem, not a problem. Because I just think I'm part of the family, so you guys, my stuff is your stuff, right? And so, and I think that's important because I think I never forget I'm a consumer. Who here is a consumer? Show of hands. Right, we're all consumers. And so at the end of the day, what would I want to hear as a consumer? And it's the best information. And that's what's going on right now, because anytime you have a dramatic shift, and they covered it great, you know, that year over year, there's never been this dramatic of a rise in rates in a 1-year period. Never. What does that do to the normal consumer? What did it do to you? Did it spook you a little bit? Right, a little bit of the eyes wide open, right? Like, whoa, okay, what's going on? And the market needs a little bit of time to adjust, but then it needs the best information to make the best. Everybody's wealth comes from real estate. They covered the market back in 05 and 06. Values of the homes when they were short selling them are now, those properties are worth now more than they were back then, right? So what does it get down to? It gets down to payment. If I sold you budget, and I think today, help me here, Richard, probably about 65% of all transactions.
Single family homes, it's, I want to say 55%.
Monthly payment. So flip it though, right? Because I know I love buyers and my folks love buyers, but I love sellers too. So if your job as a listing agent is what? Highest and best. How do you get highest and best? Is it you sit and you wait for the 45% of the offers that are cash? Or do you think maybe today you need to know more about what these two gentlemen are teaching you to present to your sellers to show them that you're the right agent, right company that'll get them highest and best, because you'll know what to look for on the finance side of it, right? Because that's so important today. So, and then with the idea that the millennials are coming to market, that's called household formation. Everybody knows what household, show me hands, you know what household formation is, right? That's like my wife kicks me out of the house, I gotta go find a place to live, right? I gotta go I make a new household, right? That's gonna set records. So you could just remind the buyers in the marketplace of last year when there was 35 offers and they were trying to find a home and they were settling on the type of home they wanted to get, and is that the experience they want? Or if they can afford the monthly payment, should they not be looking today to buy a property, knowing that it's going to create wealth over the long term? And if they're in a property for 7 to 10 years, they're going to have equity and they're going to be building wealth. Okay? You're part of their American dream. To own a home's the American dream, and you're part of that, and the information you choose to provide can help put them on the path to that, or maybe stop them. But I don't know about you. If you tell me that I can build wealth, I'd rather start today. I'd rather start today than wait for tomorrow to do something like that. Now, they provide you with a lot of good information as it relates to the marketplace, so I'll go ahead and pass on that. I will tell you this as it relates to the market, because who here worries about the here and now? And says, Bobby, I don't want to wait till 24, 25. When the rates come down. Anybody? Right? Who here wants to stay in real estate? Oh, I wish I see more hands. Come on, who wants to stay in real estate? Loan officers, put your hands down. You're in mortgages. Okay, so 25% of bankers are going to do what? Get out. What's that tell me? Perfect time for you folks who want to stay in. Perfect time for you to build market share right now. If you have the information they're providing you and you actually use it on your outbound contacts. Who here is making a bunch of outbound contacts? More than last year? No? Come on now, right? So a market like this, what's your opportunity? If you make the same number of contacts you made last year, and this goes to my loan officers, I tell them this all the time, at least make 25% more contacts, and probably more because there's more fear in the market like you guys do. That's what makes us so well yoked together as a company, right? And so our mission statement, serve others before self. Well, how the hell can you do that if you don't have the best information? I just don't understand that piece. So I think I don't have another partner that does this. And Richard was talking, and so I'm going to make a little pitch here, right? Richard was talking, how many RSVPs today? For here?
180.
180. How many in the room?
Not 180.
Do me a small favor. Selfishly speaking, when there's more realtors, it's better for me and my team. That's the selfish piece. But the real piece is education. Don't just serve yourself, serve others. Talk to the folks who should be here today out of the 180, and hey, tell them the next time this comes up, you guys got to come and get this information, right? Because rising tide lifts all boats. The more that you do in the marketplace, the easier it is when you speak to the next seller or the next buyer to win that deal. Because that's where we want to help y'all. I'm going to give you some information. We're getting the values that are coming in because the past data, if prices even fallen a little bit, go ahead and sell your property today. Now, in fact, we might be able to use some programs property. So a couple of the programs, 3, 2, 1 buy down. Everybody know what that means? That means the client can pay to buy the rate down. So if today's rate, and we'll just round it off to 7, right? It means their first year, it would be 4, their interest rate. The second year, it would be 5, right? And then the third year, it goes to 2 points, right? First year, 1 point the second year, or a 1-0 buy down, 1 point for 1 year, and then back to the normal rate for the rest, right? Why is that important? If I buy down a rate 2 points on about a $400,000 loan, saves the customer how much a month you think in payment? $400. Who here would have a big impact to their budget if it was $400? Anybody? Yeah. Who here would decline if Scott decided to give you $400 a month? Nobody declines, Scott. Right? So that's important. So now is a buyer more apt to buy if that fits their budget? We all agree it's payment. Is it 85% of the buyers that are coming with finance? Right? Well, that's not good enough. Right? That's good, but that's not good enough. We also have what we call the two-step. Richard alluded to this. I'm starting to think he works at Supreme. Right? He alluded to this. It's a two-step, meaning today we'll go ahead and finance the property for you, and after the 8th payment, you're allowed to a declining market coming our way. Right? We want to make sure that our consumers, when they get into the property, know that there's a way that they can come back and refinance, because we want customers for life, right? We want them to send their friends, their family, and we want them to be able to refinance with us when it's time for them to refinance, right? So now watch how that works. We can do a 2-1 buy down. We can save them $400. We can give them that payment. In the next 2 years when rates come down, we can streamline the refinance. How are we doing so far? Yeah? Yeah, you got some reasons yet? You guys aren't really excited. Where's the energy at? What's going on? Everybody awake? It's not me, right? They put you to sleep, not me? Yeah? Come on, right? All right, since you're that hard to get excited, how about if we just go one more time for you, and we give you one more tool? You guys in? Yes. Okay, count of 3, everybody say in with me. You ready? 1, 2, 3, in! It's pretty good, Okay, so here's the next thing we're gonna do. We're gonna let them lock, shop. Wow. That means at pre-approval, we'll lock them in at the rate.
Wow.
They can go shop with you. Once they get anybody? Anybody? McFly? Come on, round of applause, guys. Come on, this is good stuff. This market needs professionals. I can't answer that for you. I can't answer if you're that professional, willing to take the information and have, these are not exactly the easiest conversations. I'm not sitting here saying, gee, let's go ahead and get excited about 7%. What I'm saying to you is that, you know, it takes a professional to show the financial picture to make sure that consumers can make a decision on creating wealth and achieving home ownership. Because that's the American dream. That's what you do every day. It's easy to get lost in this market, right, with all the hoopla and all the news. My gosh, the media is just like lightning fast, right? And so it's easy to get all caught up in that. We got to think about our customers. What's best for them? And I think that leads us to the road to best, right? Now, I'll finish with this. The market moves at a rapid pace. Rates change every day, not by a lot, but they change. Inflation numbers were at their peak this time last year, 0.8, 0.8, 0.8. Any good news currently in the market, the market's looking for good news, whether it be buyers, inflation's at 0.8. It becomes easier for us as inflation numbers. It's the media. What Richard referred to is the single day under what was expected. Here's where you need to have professionals, the best lock-in within their 60, called a 60-day time frame of their, knowing when the key is Supreme. Supreme, can you stand up real quick? I know we only have a couple of you here today, but I actually just went to see if they all sat together. You know, I like to get them socially dispersed. But check with Supreme right now. I'd suggest you do a one-on-one. They'll bring in lunch, talk to them about your business, talk about your value proposition, your buyer and your seller, and see what you can glean out of that that's going to help you win more buyers and sellers. You want me to come on down? I'm all over the place, so just ask. Happy to. This really is for a professional. And I just see success if we all do the right stuff. So I appreciate your time. You guys have an amazing rest of the meeting.
Thank you, Bobby. We're out working with the buyer today. Can you help that buyer understand that if they lock in today and buy something, this is the worst it will ever be for them? Because they've locked in, and if something does happen and rates go from where they are to 8%, they've got a house that they like at 7%. They're looking fabulous. And if things do get better and the rates drop, you get to refinance for no charge.
Yeah,
and
you're also
you get
helping
the
them,
best rate.
and you're helping them lock in their buying power, because if rates go up, then they may not be able to afford it anymore, right?
Correct. So today is still the best day there is to buy a house. All the numbers you've seen, right? Prices are not dropping. They're going to stabilize. They're not dropping. You'll see what we're looking at going into the next segment. The numbers in South Florida are actually worse in appreciation. We're looking at the Tri-County area today. Was the first time that we switched, guys. Scott Smith, what you're going to see the third quarter going to get is showing you Broward, my own, and you get both PowerPoint listing presentation, listing presentation for you, going on a listing appointment for plug in the price for you guys.
Really like caps, so every quarterly stats
quarter,
will be
guys,
changed.
with a company called Chart in this area are the only pay a lot of money for it. This is to your clients. Okay.
And you'll see a video from me in the next all of your listing presentations that you have coming up.
Okay.
Why?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when you open these presentations, in order to have both Excel and PowerPoint on your computer. So those of you that are Mac users, Mariella,
They can use,
she'll teach you what programs to use.
yeah, you can use Keynote and Sheets is what it's called on your Mac. Unless you pay for PowerPoint and Excel, for Mac, you can still use it on your Mac without having to download anything extra.
Yeah, but every month that these come out, every quarter that I do this, the question that we're always getting is, I can't customize it, I can't do this. It's because you're not using PowerPoint, they're using PDF, and they don't have those
Yeah,
programs
if you want to
installed in
customize
their
it,
computer.
hit the PowerPoint button, not the PDF.
Yep. All right. So I'm try just the single-family home specific presentations on your own, okay? The second slide in all of all these other companies out there. Well, here's the reality, guys. We have been for years. We just do a really lousy job of sharing that information with other people. With the number one company, work with the largest group of realtors out there to all help. All right. To me, this is one of the slides that you should be using in every presentation. It's a really quick summary, puts 4 slides into one sheet. Top left hand, but I want you to look at this. The light gray is 2020. Actually, I think that's reversed. It's 2020 is the dark line, 2021 is last year, red line is this year. So we're down from last year, but we're right back to where we were 2 years ago with the number of sales we're doing. Top right, median sales price is up by 17.3%. That's our problem. Condos, up even more. In Miami-Dade County alone, the condo market is appreciating at 25%. It's unsustainable, guys. That's just stupidity on the part of the market, but it's because there is no supply, and buyers want to be here. They want to be in Florida, and there's nothing for them to buy.
Yeah, and South Florida is seen as a very safe investment, which is why there's so much money, I've mentioned this before, so much money from all parts of the world that is coming in here to South Florida because it is seen as a very safe investment.
Went to the Norton Gallery, which those of you that have along the ocean, all the way from Palm Beach back down to Boca. And I think you've got like Florida for the last growth down here. Now, the bottom, talk more about that when we get into the specific slide. And the other slide is showing you that the days on market is down 25% from last year. Inventory is increasing, prices are increasing, but what's selling is selling faster than it ever has. Yeah, interesting. We'll look at the specifics of that.
When you price it right, it'll always sell.
Always sells. Okay. Single family detached active listings. The reason that this doesn't have, you can't go backwards to capture the number of active listings at a point. When it comes to active listings, we're not going to have a comparison. If you go into Broward and Dade County, you'll see this slide, but it'll have a comparison to last year. What's important here is I want you to look at $300 to $1 million. You've got about 60% of the entire market is in that price point. Pending listings. Active. Pending. What? Active. Pending. 100 pending listings. It's only 1,600 currently active. 8,700, 8,800 price range, and that we're selling more than what's currently on the market. Numbers sold. This is where he can off almost by half in that price range, dollar price range. There's no inventory. You just saw stuff is also the segment of the market, in my opinion, has been hardest hit.
Going to a balanced market.
Mm-hmm.
It just occurred to me, looking at the numbers, that can also be by price range perhaps, I don't know what you think, like 750 to $1 million is almost like in a balanced situation, both on active listing and sold, if I'm reading it right.
Most of your upper price points, while they've all slowed down slightly, and let me just look at it. Here it is. This is a different way of looking at the same thing. In the 750 to million, sales are down 1.1%. That's a pretty balanced market.
Yeah.
Million to 2 million, we're down about 12%. Same thing, 5 to 750. It's in the lower price ranges, which there is no inventory, and the inventory that's there is affected by the interest rates. And your upper price, 4 million and above buyers who were not really backed out of the market waiting to go, well, what's going to happen? Apply versus this time last year, all of those numbers, here we were like 2 points. In the 2 to 4 million, we've just flipped up into a slight buyer's market at 7.4 months of inventory, and 4 million and above is 14 and almost 15 months of inventory. A year ago when I was doing this, those two lower categories didn't exist sales in those categories. Now, I can share with you that inventory in those price points. That's most of the market for the last year. You guys have sold more $1 million plus homes.
At the condo market, Lee, if we went back 5-7 years ago and looked at that, it was like, what, 7 years?
In Miami, it was multiple years of inventory.
Yep.
Yep. All right, so this is showing you the percentage of the original list price, your list to sell ratio. So you can see that last saving full price, if not above. And then it changed slowly. This year, we've dropped to 9, and I wish the people that put these things together would do a better. Yet you look at the graph and you go, that's a whole lot more than 1%. Right? But you can make them say anything you want. And you can do that through graphs because it's not a really good graphical representation of what the truth is. But look at the market overall. We went from 2% is what we're now negotiating. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, this is actually a better time to be out there because you're looking at 5 to 750 price range, and a year ago you were having to pay full price if not above, and right now we're in a position we're able to negotiate.
With the finance piece of it, if you can get 2% off the list, my suggestion would be if you can open up more buyers or 1%, and you can use that 2% and maybe just a little bit more to pay some of the buyers' closing costs. That can be used to get the rate down that I'm talking about and get the monthly payment affordable, where you actually can start creating some buyers who didn't think they could buy.
Yeah.
Make sense?
If you were to use that for the price of the rate, it could change your payment.
And those of you that have been to my listing contracts class, I think it's the last paragraph on page 1. It's talking about the seller offer. Mr. Seller, why would I have you negotiate, buying down the mortgage now when having that conversation with the seller? We're seeing people negotiating off of the full price point. So why don't we do this? Let's put your house on the market at X, and in the broker's remarks, I'll put in, seller is willing to offer 2 points to buy down the mortgage. You'll get a full price offer, which is really like 98%, which is still better than what the average discount is if you're going to negotiate. and you're going to open the pool of buyers.
Tell them why, Scott.
Because it won't affect their property value, and things will continue to appraise in the neighborhood.
Recorded price is the actual price.
Mhm.
So when you discount it, what Scott's saying is you're 2% down. That's helping the neighborhood.
Correct.
Yep. And it also becomes a tax deduction for your seller when you're sitting there at the listing appointment.
It goes two ways as well. Are you comfortable having that conversation?
If you want to have the listing agent give me a call, I'm happy to explain it to them. It's been so much fun. And what did I coach you guys on doing? For you too.
I was hoping that we would get to this.
Yeah.
And yeah, so what is in 17 years? My real estate business has sold around 1,700 homes. So what Scott had suggested was leveraging to a certain level and then brings in someone who has a bit more seniority to help the buyer understand how to get to the finish line.
If they
3 weeks now, and it is absolutely filling my cup, which is I extreme PhD level, but also having conversations with the listing agents in submitting the offers and helping in the negotiation to allow perspective that may not be there, conversations with the buyer. So the buyer, after a deal or 2 or 3, makes, when any of those results happen, they stay market. Where the buyers won't go up, the sellers with you, we can close more deals together.
think about it like this. You've been telling your kids something, friend's house, and their best friend's parents tell them the exact same thing. I've been telling you that for so long. It's just another person coming in and giving them the exact same message.
At what point bringing you or lead in? Like, how would that?
Pulling on whether, or if we need to, we can join you in conversation via Zoom or on.
Right, days on market. It has increased. And you saw it earlier, we talked about days on market has big increase, right? Advertisements, mail, average of
Yeah.
20 years ago. You know, we also get average of this, and I look back.
As a joke, but it makes it and a benefit to us at the exact same time because have the ease of access to information that we currently, but because the access of information is available to everyone.
That's the positive of Zillow. We complained, we bitched about Zillow like crazy. It's how they were, every week, 1 week you'd get a blue, all of the data. Then we went on the internet, and it's out there. Instead of becoming holders of the data, our job is now to interpret the data for our clients.
Richard said there, interpret the data. They can already.
Now this slide, again, is one that overall last year, 17 and a half of every home that went. You want to get your home sold? Too many, as I put it, too many sellers are driving the bus instead of you guys. You are the brightest, best trained realtors out there. You need to control the situation. There's too many other realtors out there who the only way they can get a listing is by reducing their commission and taking it at whatever price the damn seller tells them to take it at. I want you to be able to walk away from a transaction if you're not getting it priced properly, which means you're not working with a motivated seller and you're going to be wasting your time. Get it on the go-round. The commission you deserve, and stop discounting yourself. You're worth what you're charging them.
Sounds like he's running for office.
Okay, this is just showing you by price point the percentage of price reductions from the original price. Price reduction effect, list to sell ratio. Well, in the $150 to $1 million price point, if you're pricing it properly, you're still getting your seller full price. If you price it wrong and you have to take a price reduction, those deductions are almost 10%. You take a $750,000 house that should sell for $750,000, price it properly, you're getting full price. Price it wrong, you take a price reduction, and you'll end up with $675,000. Guys, these aren't numbers that you're making up. You're showing them real numbers coming from the MLS. This is the history of what happened. This is not what you're projecting will happen. These are specific numbers. That's the power of these presentations.
And we'll get to the spreadsheet in a few minutes where you can just plug in the numbers and make it more real for them.
Yeah. Now this is showing you if you do reduce the price, same thing, from the 150 to 750, you're getting 100% of the reduced price. But look at how much negotiation's coming off of that for the homes that were reduced. You're still negotiating it further.
To $275,000, that then I can expect 96% of that price.
If it wasn't the correct reduced price.
There you go.
Now, price reduction just doesn't have to do with what they're putting in their pocket, it has to do with how long it takes to sell the house. Because you're putting it on the market and you price it properly, and again, on the far right-hand side, on average, homes are selling for 19 days if they're priced properly. If they're not, they're sitting on the market for, you're probably taking a month before you go back to them and go, guess what, Mr. Seller, I probably made a mistake and we need to reduce the price, and you reduce the price and now it takes another couple of weeks. It ends up taking almost 2 months to sell the house instead of 2 weeks. We'll kind of tie that together for you at the end of the presentation. So this is in 468 closings. They averaged 90, no price reduction, was 2/3 of that market. 1/3 of them listed, first time on the market, with the original agent, the 1% of the market almost. That was the right price, but something happened with the agent they listed it with. They had a fight 125 days in order to sell the house.
And factors at play on that side.
Correct. The other side, they took price reductions. Wrong. This is a good slide to share with people. Let me explain.
KWWaxman.com/stats. There you go.
Okay. Now, tying in with price changes, nice. These are the number of listings that have expired. Takes me away in the hottest market we've ever seen. You still have 20% expiring. To right now, we're at almost 36% of all listings expiring.
Yeah, and I don't believe that we have seen the peak of this if you're not preparing yourself for into active listings for yourself. You have 6 weeks to prepare yourself. I come up in the MLS 31st date, and we see a lot every year on January. Massive market share during this period of time. Look, everyone and their mom can pick up the phone and call them. Then if you just pick up the phone.
Expired. My house, I want to sell my house. Tell them what it took to get them, to show them what it's going to take to get their home sold. Listings, 64 of them sold at 100% in 19 days, and price reduced. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, which one of those boxes do you want to be in?
Yeah, when we say taken at the right price, one of the things that we also have to start taking into consideration, if you haven't been doing this already, is what is the pending prices in the market, not just the things that have sold. We have to take that data into account as well.
Yep. This is just, this graph, this slide has been around forever, as long as I've been in real estate. It's simply a way to show kind of like bullseye. You know, 30% of the properties are selling in the median price point. Their 36% are never. Another interesting slide, percent. You got above asking price. Even with the market shifting the way it is, when you look at this, 500 to 750, I just keep picking on that one, 39% of all of those listings sold above asking price. That's still about one of the hottest segments of the market. Last year that was 54%, so it's come off some. We don't have all the bidding wars that we did, but 39% of those in that price point, you still had a bidding war. I'm talking to you guys, and it's really hard for buyers to and this is where you get to educate buyers out there that are looking for the right house. For those of you that have been coming to this for a long time, what's that?
It's a beauty competition too.
Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what I need you to understand is when we put your house on the market, we are in a price war and a beauty contest. The next home that sells in your neighborhood is going to be the best priced home.
How do you reconcile the data in this graph? What's your opinion on how we're still having data indicating over 100% over asking price with so many expireds that we have, and also so many price reductions?
The properties that are priced properly and are showing well are getting above asking price.
So this goes to enforce perhaps the auction effect, where you can't undersell a property.
Always has. There's no way, and that's a good comment, Scott. A property. Now you've got sellers out there, you're going to be on listing appointments and they're going to go, well, the only reason you want to price, in your mind, the worst thing that happens is I underprice your house. And what happens then? We're going to have multiple buyers looking at it because it's the most exciting property on the market. And we're going to end up with multiple offers in a bidding situation, and the buyers will end up paying what the fair market value of your house is.
Yeah, and this also goes to the tech side of things, Scott, because if we were talking 25 years ago, yeah, you could potentially more so underprice a home. But remember, now if you put something on the market and it's an absolutely incredible deal, the world is going to see it and they're going to drive the price up. You're not just competing in a local market, you're competing in a world market.
So another interesting slide, you price the house properly, you get them full price and above for it, and it sells even quicker. So instead of selling in 31 days for all, okay. Another really interesting slide to share with people. How many sales happened on each day? So day 0, MLS, a pocket listing soon, creating excitement about it, and you have.
If you have not looked into it, I would strongly suggest look at 72sold.com. And every of our offices are going to be participating in a national ad campaign that we're allotting money into on your behalf so that through this program, it will bring you additional opportunity. I would go and look at that. It's called 72national.com. Is if you are approved and you've taken the training through 72national.com. And by the way, this is a company that Gary Keller has partnered with out of Arizona. And this entire brokerage of 487 people just joined KW as the largest indie that has ever joined KW now.
Yeah. They are going to be investing but $12 million a month.
$12 million a month.
National advertising.
Yes.
It'll break in January, and their biggest push is going to be Super Bowl in February. This is nationwide to drive people to a website that'll be driving qualified leads to you.
Yeah, and about $2
but you have to
million
participate
of that is
in
going
it.
to be down here in South Florida.
Yep. Now, the red line at the top of this is showing you that for the first 2 weeks, the homes that sold for at or just above full price. The longer it stayed on the market, the more you're negotiating off of full price. Again, great slide to share on your listing presentation, the importance of pricing it right from day one. Again, compilation slide. This thing hasn't changed in years. The look of it is identical, and in all 8 of the slide categories that you see, this is looking very similar. It's simply showing you top left slide, most of your sales happen on the first weeks in the market. Bottom, the longer it's on the market, the more price reductions you're taking. And the top right, the closest to asking price happens within the first couple weeks that it's on the market. If we price it wrong, you're going to end up with less money, and it's going to take us more time to do it. Financing, this is 33% of all sales are cash. It's actually up from last year. This is why you needs to be with people that know what they're doing.
And another reason for that cash amount actually going up, investing it into property instead of...
Absolutely. Cash percentage by quarter. This is just another way of looking at the same information. You're looking at just under a third of all price range, under 150,000. That's almost total invest. I mean, guys, really fix and flippers who are coming in with cash and then buy the property instead of taking a mortgage.
Your A1A people.
Your A1A, yep.
Yeah.
Right. And again, he gives you a summary of everything as to what's happened in each segment. You want to look over that for each category. These are the talking points that you want to use in your listing presentation. And then you go into, to me, the best slides that he puts together for us. These are the interactive charts. So you've seen this slide before. This is where you can go and you can see here, when you have this with PowerPoint and Excel, that yellow box, you just double click on it. And you're going to see the whole slide kind of shake and change. And then you can change the price range and what county you want to look at. So the numbers that are in this box now, 750 to $1 million in Broward County, there were 505 closings. You can see the average list to sale price, 97.5 in 32 days. And if you got it correct with no price reduction, it was 100% in 19 days.
Yeah, and if you also want to own the whole quarter.
Yep. Same thing with this slide. You change it, 750 number.
Yeah, I don't know
by
that
the way,
750 to 99,000 is going to work.
Right. The listing presentation that he put together, how that's set up, he actually did that by working with a couple of our agents, asking what slides do you want to use? How do you present them? What would you like to see? And then he went back and customized everything. If you're looking through this and you have a question about it, or you have a suggestion as to what would make it better, he's really willing to listen to us.
Yeah, or even an additional category or something like that, that you're like, if I only had, tell him that you're with our office and he'll work on it pretty quick at kw.com. And his information is in the presentation as well. So when you go look at the slides, it's all in there.
Yeah, no, Jeremy used to be a team leader for KW. Was a very good agent, was a very good team leader, and he actually bought this company about a year and a half ago. So the changes he's made to it are coming more from an agent's perspective than what the original owner of Chartmaster was, because he was a straight statistician.
Yeah, he also still had an @AOL.com emails.
Right. Yep. All right. So this is my favorite slide of all of them.
Yeah, this is the money slide right here.
That's, okay.
Literally.
You can change what's in yellow. So again, you double click, and I did total. So this is the Tri-County area. Seller tells you, well, I want to try it at $1.5 million. We can always negotiate it down. You're going, well, my advice is, let's price it just under that price point at $975. And this is, again, not your opinion. This is pulling the numbers straight from the MLS is what happened. $1.05 million, you know, is the wrong number. I hope none of you ever price like that. There are break points. right? People search. Well, I want to spend between 900 and $1 million. Or I want to spend between $1 million and $1.2 million. Those are the breakpoints you all search for every day. Pricing it at $1.05 million, you now missed all the people that were looking 900 to $1 million. Makes no sense. It would be like pricing it at 760,000 instead of 750. It's not a price break that people look at. So that difference is only $75,000. But here's what will happen. You price it wrong at 874, 650,000, and it's going to take us 113 days on average to do it. If we price it right, we're going to get 99.6%, and it's only going to take 16 days.
Remember, this is pulling it directly from the data in that price point, so this is not you making it up.
Yep. So even though you're suggesting to price it at $75,000 less, you are potentially going to net them $96,450 more. Now, the other key to this is you're going to do it in about 3.2 months. Estimating a $1 million house, taxes and maintenance. The mortgage on an $800,000 mortgage would probably be about $4,000 a month. Your yard work, pool, etc., $5,000, which over the 3.2 months is $22,000. Me do almost $120,000 more.
And my advice to you would be this. When you are going through this with them, ask them, what do your utilities cost you monthly? Ask them, what is your insurance, taxes, and maintenance? What is your mortgage? Because when you ask them those questions, it's no longer your numbers, it's their numbers. And the number becomes even more real to them when they've given you their own reality.
So is this a chart? Is this a graph that you think you can use on your listing presentation?
Oh, that was pathetic. Can you use this on your listing presentation? That's better.
Yeah. Up at the top, you can pick specific Broward versus Miami. The reason we get a phone call from a buyer who's moving here in, I want to buy a home. No, Florida. Now, what you've told doing blah, 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 Scott ended up in all over.
We did.
Okay, South Florida. You can always then go and say, well, let's bring them narrow it down a little bit more. Alts to all price ranges. I put this just in Broward. Green is good. Real estate can be hugely consequential. Today was to give you the information so that you are the experts of what's going on. And I congratulate the 20%.
Now, before we finish up, I want to invite one of the most influential people in real estate right now, according to several different people that I've talked to, and even some publications. Dave Gervasi, come on up. Let's give it up for Dave. Morning growth community, and if you're interested in joining our OWTH, or just search Entre Growth on Facebook, and you'll find the community there. Ladies and gentlemen, Dave Gervasi.
Thank you. So I just want to mention one thing. I love it very much.
Yeah.
I want to use this data to get more listings and close more Cermak Memorial. So I'm on the board of directors of the LD because I believe if a parent should put these kids through college, that will allow us to have an endowment. This is not true where Jay in Indiana worked, but we can't. He was a teacher at Bay. So thank you.
I want to thank you again because you reach out to me on a regular basis talking about different. There are home making phone calls or texting or rental. Will your landlord accept Section 8 or some other form of governmental assistance for the rental? If you answer anything other than, you've now opened yourself up for a lawsuit.
How do we know
And
this,
there's a
Richard?
law firm, realtors.com, because this is what they specialize in, and we just settled one of these cases for one of our realtors a couple months ago. This is a HUD, a Fair Housing Act lawsuit, and this is real. These people are, like I said, they're sitting in their home making these phone calls or texting out to realtors, waiting for you to answer wrong, and if you do, it's turned over to this law firm.
As of yesterday, 57 lawsuits have been filed in Broward County since the first of the month against realtors who have said no when they've answered the call. That could be anybody.
Yeah.
And what you said like, they're calling up someone who has a $4,000 a month rental and saying, do you accept Section 8? No, check with my owner and send an application and we'll see what we can do.
Guess what? They don't send an application.
Right.
No, they're not wasting their time doing that. They are trying to get you to answer the question in the wrong way.
Yep.
Be very careful. I refer to them as mystery shoppers.
Mm-hmm.
Except these people have nothing to do with their time other than try and get you to break the law. Be very careful about it.
Right. And just on another note, recently I've become very involved with the National Association of Realtors, which is something that was never on my radar. And I've been learning so much, and I encourage we're the voice of our association level. Get involved, get on committees. They will listen to us. They will go the direction of it. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
I wanted to make two announcements. One is I will be hosting 2 expired classes in December to ramp up for National Expired Day, January 1st.
Yes.
2, this Tuesday, and it'll be, and it's designed for every level of agent, from a brand new agent to an agent who isn't too small, no question too big, and it's been a class going on in Aventura for 5 months now, and it's been consistent every Tuesday. We just upgraded our Zoom capabilities, so it will be on Zoom.
And you'll be able to hear it.
Yes, and you will be able to hear it, you will be able to see, you'll be able to share the screen or the whiteboard. So with that said, this Tuesday, 10:30 a.m., we'll get the link out to everybody, but if you want to write it down, the Aventura Zoom is KW, MIA, as in Miami, FTL, Fort Lauderdale.com. So Tuesday, 10:30, it's going to be 2 hours long, because we did not have a class last week, so we'll just, ramp it up for having anywhere between 20 and 35 agents in attendance. So thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Lee. And one other thing, you can get these stats, remember, at kwwaxman.com/stats, and the password is onward, all in lowercase. And if you've enjoyed our presentation today, this is Richard Bass, and I'm Scott Polar. If you haven't, we are Alan Waxman.
Hi. The entire presentation today, all of the slides, not just the Chartmaster slides, I've given Scott my flash drive, so he will put this presentation up there as well. You can pull any of those slides that you want from it. Thank you, guys. Have a great weekend.
Happy Thanksgiving.